go all in, balls to the wall, make it happen. Just believe in yourself. It's a lot of things that a lot of problems people have with is just believing that they can do it, and you can. You just gotta hustle, you just gotta work, you gotta learn, never stop learning. Read lots of books and listen to podcasts like this.
Welcome to Verify Infield, the millwork podcast. Here's Jacob.
Well, welcome back, everybody, to Verify Infield. Today, I have the pleasure of having Kevin Fassnacht on with us again as a second time. So if you go back, we'll link in the show notes his first episode where you can hear all about his journey and his kind of nexus and coming into the millwork industry and starting a shop. And then today, we're talking about how he has grown since then and growing into acquiring another shop and the growth that comes with that, with merging facilities and next stage in his journey. So thanks for joining today, Kevin.
Yeah, thanks for having me back, man. I really appreciate it. It was a pleasure the first time, and I'm sure it's going to be great this time as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So as I mentioned today, we're talking about, how things have changed for you, your growth journey, and obviously the big change is you've acquired a new shop. You've moved since we last talked. You're in a new facility. You've got some people working with you now. Tell us about that process of how that opportunity came about and how you went through the process of making that decision.
Yeah, so I guess it was about a year ago last time we spoke, and my whole entire mindset about my business really changed pretty drastically, pretty quickly. A little backstory to what was happening. So I ended up purchasing another business, another woodworking business, but not technically purchasing a business. I didn't acquire any of the liabilities, more of an asset purchase. So I acquired a new lease, a new employee, and a lot of old equipment, double the size of my old shop in a 4,000 square foot shop. So this whole entire situation kind of landed on my lap. I wasn't looking for it. Honestly, my whole entire business outlook was very different. I didn't see me going down this road. Ironically, it was my barber that introduced me to this guy, which is pretty funny. So I've been going to the same guy for a long time, and he had mentioned him many of times over the years. He's the only other woodworker that he knows. And he had told me that he was selling his equipment. He was getting to the point where he's going to retire. He's going to have to go off on auction because he couldn't get anybody to buy his business. And I was immediately intrigued, and I went down to his shop right from my haircut and introduced myself. Initially, my mindset was, maybe I can get some good deals on equipment. And then it rolled into, do you want to purchase the shop? And it took me about 3 months to gather up the courage to say yes to do this. And so I finally decided, and I thought it was a good move for me. And the big thing with me for the past 10 years being in business, I made myself a good living, but I always knew that there was a maximum of what you could personally do yourself as a business owner. And I knew that something would have to change eventually. And I didn't know what that was going to be. Probably about a year ago, my mindset where my business was going to go into the design showroom, like I mentioned in the last episode, that I sell a lot of manufactured cabinetry. So I'm a dealer of a few different lines. But this kind of shiny object syndrome tickled my inner craftsman to get into a bigger shop and have all the tools that I never had before. And it's kind of setting me up to be able to grow into a production shop versus before more of a niche cabinet maker that sold volume cabinetry.
Yeah, awesome. So it sounds like to some extent there was, an opportunity that fell into your lap, right time, right circumstances,
Yeah.
Not something that you were out there, looking for, but ultimately you knew before this opportunity that you were planning to grow, you wanted to grow, and there was a limit to what you could do by yourself, right?
Right.
And so I imagine though, when this opportunity dropped in, in your lap, you're looking at, okay, do I buy this shop that's already outfitted with equipment and obviously comes with an employee, or, the alternative is, do I try to do this, myself,
Right.
little at a time, much slower, right?
Yep.
That's the main thing you're comparing.
Yes, and that was honestly the biggest thing for me that made the most amount of sense doing this, because the cost for me to purchase this versus the cost of me to actually physically do this, move location, set up a spray booth, buy all this equipment new, even if used, and getting it and doing the wiring, the electrical work, the duct work to get this place set up to what it is, what I just purchased, would have cost me quadruple of what I paid for it. And also the amount of time and downtime it would have been to actually have to do that. So that's one of the biggest things, the biggest kickers that made this make sense. I literally did not, maybe it was a 2-week window of me breaking down my old shop and selling off all of my equipment, but I was immediately to work the moment I moved in because it was turnkey. So that was a huge deciding factor for me, and it made this transition, pretty easy. And ever since I've been in here, obviously I've been trying to change a lot and did a lot of things to change what the processes they've kind of developed over the years that may be a bit antiquated, but it's a good stepping stone for me to take off to where I want to go.
And so this is still a relatively fresh new move, right? I mean, you moved, like you said, out of your old shop into the new one. How recently have you?
Yeah, it was March 1st. So March 1st, 2025, and it is June 25th. So, yeah,
Yep.
that's only 3 months
So
ago.
3-4 months in there,
exactly.
very, very new.
Yeah.
So it sounds like it came relatively quick as far as, hey, this opportunity showed up, had the conversation, evolved into, hey, let's acquire the shop, the equipment, all that. And you've got a new team member there.
Yeah.
What are some of the benefits? Obviously you've got more capacity, you've got more facilities, all that type of stuff. Are there any unexpected benefits that you've seen so far that, you weren't expecting, but now you have?
I want to say it's unforeseen, but I did know that. So now, the problem with my old shop, specifically my old shop, not just me and my capabilities, but my old shop, I was very limited of what I could do for size-wise of a job and also timeline. So now I could take on a significant amount more work to kind of feed into this flow. And, with the tools I have, I always kind of joked around saying the tools I had were like one step above DIY. They were industrial tools at a DIY level, but I was producing, professional grade cabinetry. All the processes are much quicker with what the equipment that I have here. So I think the biggest thing that I'm realizing too is that I could obviously build things much faster and more efficiently. So I'm actually able to decrease my prices, and that kind of surprised me a little bit. There's a lot of money things associated with this that are kind of surprising, where my overhead is almost quadruple what I was paying, but at the same time I can still charge less because my production levels have skyrocketed.
So there really is efficiency gained in just the machinery itself, the space and the machinery you have, right? And I think that's something that, people who are listening who have built cabinets or maybe run a shop, maybe it makes sense, but you don't think about the difference. And so I guess for context, what are some of those things that have changed for you? I assume going from, obviously you mentioned a spray booth, but before this, you are basically table saw, you were assembling by screws and end panels, edge banding.
Edge banding alone. I mean, once again, I was confined by the space that I had, but I have a large industrial edge bander, and I can edge band a whole entire kitchen in an hour versus it used to be 2 days because I had a tabletop glue pot one that I would actually have to physically route or trim by hand afterwards. And if anybody's a cabinet maker listening, I mean, that's ridiculous. So I wish I invested in that in the past. And a lot of these eureka moments, like if I just invested into the proper tools, I probably would have gotten to this place a lot faster. And then honestly, just having a guide. So the guy that I did acquire, he's an older gentleman. He's 65 years old, but he's extremely talented, and he's been obviously doing this his whole entire career. He actually was working with his company for the past 27 years. So it kind of came with the place. Not only did I buy equipment, I got this guy, and it was probably he alone is probably the best part of this whole entire acquisition that I have, because I'm able to just close my eyes and let him work and trust that he knows what he's doing. I'm changing, like I said, I'm changing processes and things that I like to do versus how they used to do it. But having him here and the efficiency that we can gain from his knowledge is pretty amazing as well too. And a lot of the variables, like you mentioned, spray booth, that's a huge one for me. I used to do all my own finishing in a spray area. I explored water-based coatings. I sprayed every coating under the sun, and just having the proper airflow and the proper dust separation from the shop has just been unbelievable. So that whole process is expedited.
And I imagine, just like you said, just gaining that employee alone with the experience he has, that's not something you can just go out and hire and find somebody easily.
I wish he
has that experience.
I wish he was 10 years younger. I really do.
Yeah.
It's an unfortunate thing that there's a timeline that I do have him around. So I am going to have to go out there into the market to find somebody to replace him, and probably will sooner or later, to at least give him a hand, maybe to learn from him, because the reality is I'm not in the shop as much as I used to be, because I'm trying to sell work and design. And like I got to my point before, I'm still a dealer of cabinetry too, because that will always be a large source of income for me. So I'm never going to stop doing that. Now I just have more tiers and can take on more projects and larger sizes, not only for manufactured cabinetry, but also completely in-house custom.
Yeah. So, as a business owner, I can imagine, the idea of staring down this before hand, you make the decision, okay, I'm going to make this investment, which I imagine, is a sizable chunk of cash you're going to put down or a loan or whatever, right? You're making an investment that eventually you're banking on is going to come back, right? They're going to get a return on the investment in some time frame.
Right.
But still, there's pressure that comes with that, and anxiety, I imagine, of like, oh my gosh, is this actually going to result in what I'm planning on it, right?
Right.
So imagine going in, but has there been any moments of like, okay, this is actually working? Like you said, I'm recognizing, okay, there is a significant investment, but that gets me leaps and bounds ahead of like what I can do capacity wise now. Like, do you feel like you're over that hump of like, okay, this is going to yield the results that I was anticipating?
I mean, I don't think I'll ever be at that point. I'm going to probably be second guessing this decision for the next 20 years. But no, I really do think that it will. The potential is high with this business and what I have now. It's a whole mindset shift for me. And that's really what it's been. And it's a constant battle that I'm kind of like going through in my head about it. But I really do think I'll see it because I'm a good saver. So I was able to do this all in cash. So it didn't put me into true liabilities with it. Anything that I do have and I have purchased, they hold their value. So that was the other, believe me, I went through this rabbit hole and really analyzed this to make sure this even made sense before I did this. And this was not this decision for me that made sense that I want the life I wanted to live, but a financial decision that made sense. So all the equipment that I have, I could turn it around tomorrow and probably turn a profit let's be real. So, I do think no matter what, this was a great place to put my money. And I do truly think that it'll be a great investment long-term for me and my family.
So you mentioned that, it's been a shift in mindset. Can you talk a little bit about that for those that are listening that maybe are in a similar position to where you are or where you were, being a one-man show? Imagine jumping from that to, okay, now I've got another employee, I've got, a new facility, an investment that I've just made that obviously, you anticipate that, hey, it's going to return something more than what you had before. But from the mindset standpoint, do you find yourself having to remind yourself to think differently? Hey, I've got an employee. Hey, I've got to sell, I've got to make, I've got to do, I've got to lead, versus just, when it's yourself, there's nobody else to let down but yourself, right?
Yeah. It's a very, very different. I've experienced this over the years. I've had guys in my shop plenty of times, and I know what it's like to keep someone busy, and what it's like to just be a single owner. Obviously, the lifestyle of a single owner operated business there's a lot of pros and cons to it. You have a lot more freedom of it. You don't have to worry about paying payroll at the end of the week, and if you don't pay yourself, it's fine unless you're broke. And same thing, my overhead cost was a big thing here too, that I really had to wrap my brain around, saying that, like I said, it's a significant amount more a month. So there was a lot of moments and my shifts about how I operate and how I'm selling work. And whereas before, the big thing for me was being a sole op, I did well on the jobs because I was very selective on the jobs that I took. So, and I made sure I priced them accordingly. And then if I had slow times, it wasn't the biggest deal because, I usually did pretty well on the jobs I was selling. But now I'm realizing that it's the most important factor of this is cash flow. So it's more about the consistency than making a killing it off of an overall job. Like the overall broad stroke of a year of, say, net profits is more important than individual job profits. So the big shift for me is trying to really to hone in on to not concentrate so much on the individual things and look at this as big picture and where I really want to take this. Whereas before I just had a job. I was just self-employed. I lived a nice life, relatively cushy in the sense I had a lot of freedom, but it's a lot more stressors involved in this. And like I said, it's only one employee too, and I do plan to bring more guys involved in this. And that was a big mindset shift. I had to realize that I was going back to work. Like when I first started my business, I worked an insane amount of hours, and I was exhausted, and I had a breakdown, and came back, and I figured out new ways to sculpt my business, and it worked. And I was mellowed out, and I was worked a normal regular schedule. I'm right back in a hustle mode. And that was a big decision that I had to make, knowing that I'm getting myself into all over again.
Yeah. So that's something else, I don't want to gloss over, that it seems like, from what you've told me and also from what I've, we've spoken before and what I've seen from the work you put out there, is you've always hustled. right?
Yeah.
And even before you made the decision, hey, I'm going to go acquire, even, you were a one-man show for a period of time, it sounds like, but you were still hustling and doing a lot of work that it seems like prepared you for this, both mentally, like you mentioned, you were a saver, you were already managing cash flow well, you were already thinking about your profits, you were doing a lot of things that, just for those that are listening, if you're thinking about starting your shop or you're early in your journey and you maybe don't even know, hey, am I going to grow to be more than just a one-man show one day? It seems like you laid the framework for just how to run a business successfully and how to be somewhat conservative while really gambling on yourself and your skill sets, right?
Yeah.
Do you look back now and think, okay, yeah, I was prepared for this, even though I didn't know this is what was coming?
Yeah, no, 100%. And I'm constantly reinvesting into myself. I've taken business courses, and I'm constantly listening to. That's how I discovered you. Listening to podcasts, lots of audiobooks. So I was constantly absorbing a lot of information how to properly run a business. Even though I was a small little one-man operation, I still wanted to be successful. And I knew that even where I was, and there was like a comfortability to where I was, I always knew it wasn't good enough. So essentially, I was preparing for what was going to come, and I think it's just my personality. I am a hustler. Just I'm a type A person, so I'm always on. But at the same time, I think with this shift and this business that I moved into, I think I needed this. I needed someone to kind of hand it to me on a silver platter, saying, "Take this opportunity and run with it," because I don't personally think I would have taken it to the next level on my own, or it would have taken me a lot longer, because I don't want to say I'm overly cautious, but I do overanalyze everything. And so when this was presented to me, it was just like a push, and I just ran with it. And yeah, I'm very happy that I kind of had that background of being in business for 10 years already, knowing how to sell, knowing how to operate, and also just the background of my cabinetry career leading up to this too. I know, very vast array of this business from the businesses that I worked on in prior to going off my own. So it was definitely
Awesome.
helpful.
Something else I saw on some of your posts, I know beforehand we talked about, and you were very public in your posts about using SketchUp and the way you had developed some skill sets and tool sets in there using SketchUp. And with this, I think you have access and are using Mosaic now, right?
Yeah.
Natural
shift.
What is that, journey or shift and kind of acquiring a new tool and learning a new tool? Are you still diving in and learning that, or have you shifted back to SketchUp? We'll talk a little bit about that.
So I've learned a lot about Mosaic in the past few months. I learned it in preparation for this. I knew that what I was getting myself into. So about 2 months before I actually moved into it, I already meant to make the mental shift that this is the move I was going to go. I knew that SketchUp wasn't the answer. The traditional way of shop drawings, of line drawings, say SketchUp or CAD, it's extremely time consuming, and it's just not profitable. Having to manually go in and make cut lists, and the biggest fall off for me too is not being able to produce 3D renderings, because the way that I was doing it, I was doing in 2D. So it was very much just a flat CAD drawing. And there was always a fallout with that. So I was using either virtual assistants to put together a rendering based off the drawings that I made. It was just an extra step. So I wanted one program to be all the answers. And do I think that Mosaic is all the answers? No. But has it helped significantly on expediting that? Yeah. And I don't want to talk down Mosaic, because I know it's an extremely powerful program. I'm just not there yet. It's a very simple program, but you can do a lot with it. But I just haven't taken any. I know you could pay to take courses on it to find out all the things that I can do. There's an infinite amount of YouTube videos, but for specific questions, that one is never there. Yeah. It's been really good. And the biggest thing for me, like I said, is it's more for like a production setting. So the way that I'm trying to sculpt this business is that I keep on kind of saying this, and it kind of sounds silly, but I want to kind of create a mini factory. I want something that I could produce kitchen cabinetry, because that's my bread and butter, and people are always going to need kitchens. Not the same way every time, but at least in a process that can be repeated. And the reason that I have this whole mindset is because based off of the past years of me selling cabinetry as a dealer. And obviously these larger companies have figured it out. They've created this process and system within automation to be able to produce relatively the same thing over and over again. And that's all cabinetry really is. It's a box with different faces, different fronts. And that's what's really good about Mosaic. It's really good about doing, I don't want to say cookie cutter cabinetry, but cabinetry. But the fallout is for my niche custom things. So over the years, I built a lot of furniture. Mosaic's not a program for furniture, or just really unique type of architectural millwork that I just haven't figured out how to use it at that level yet. But I know that, I don't know, but hopefully it will get to that point one day. And the program's powerful in the sense that it produces G code for a CNC machine, and I want to get a CNC machine. And then on top of that, for the time being, it produces cut lists for every component that needs to be made for every single job. And so it just lops off a amount of time that's associated with the front end of, drafting.
Awesome. And obviously you still have, your skills and your tools in SketchUp to get back on,
right,
where it doesn't work for you yet.
Right.
I want to talk a little bit about, I think we talked about this last time, some on your episode, but the role of social media. So you're somebody who, from my perspective, has, a huge following, particularly on Instagram, and particularly for, our industry, right? And I think I'm curious how much you feel like that plays into your success from a business standpoint of gaining customers, or how much of it is just as kind of a, hey, this is my portfolio. I enjoy putting it out. You put a lot of great content out, and particularly you do a lot of stories, which I think obviously allows people to see inside your business, see inside your process, not just the final project of nice, pretty photos. There are those, but can you talk a little bit about how you grew to start posting to begin with? And is there any strategy beside that, or is it just kind of evolved as you've developed your business?
So I think one of the reasons why I didn't have, and I definitely don't have a huge following. There's a lot of guys that have way more following than I do. I look at myself as a little peanut in there, but the only reason I did it is because it's honestly, and I continually do, it's kind of fun. I've developed a lot of really good relationships with people. We met through Instagram, and a lot of just business connections that I could, talk to and relate to and build with. But for the most part, I don't have much of a process about using social media. Honestly, I don't post nearly enough. I'm pretty sporadic with it. The one thing that I do like about Instagram is the stories, because it's easy. It's like I've got, in the very beginning of social media, like when Instagram started popping off, picking up your phone and talking to it was extremely awkward, but I got over that pretty quick. And in the very beginning of Instagram, I was like, what can I do to kind of get a following and to keep people interested in my page? So I did a lot of how-to videos, constantly teaching people how to do what my process was of how to build, and every step of the way. I did a lot of that over the years. And honestly, I was just self-conscious to the fact that I actually put it on my page as a post. And I look back at it, and I should have been posting this. And honestly, I would have probably created a better foundation with social media if I actually kept it on the page itself, not for something that disappears in 24 hours. And so I've made that conscious decision over the past year or so, even though I'm not nearly consistent enough about it, but to just post it. Don't just leave it on the stories for it to go away. And my relationship with it has definitely evolved. I don't necessarily have the time or the want to do all these how-to videos all the time. So I kind of use it as a creative outlet. It's just fun to pick up my phone, check in with my peeps, and to show what I'm doing every day. Because I think that's the genuine part of Instagram is stories, when you kind of get that insight, what's going on behind the scenes. Don't get me wrong, a beautiful, well put together social media page with beautiful posts is great, but it's just very much a front, it's just a face. It's a great marketing tool for when you use it like that, which I still do. But at the same time, I use Instagram more as just like flow, just having fun. I want people to know that I exist. And I definitely generated work from it over the years. But the biggest thing for me that I can get out of it, I know a lot of people will say the same thing, is the connections that I've made. So just either woodworking friends that live in Florida and Texas and California and all over the freaking world, that I'm good friends with them now. We chat all the time, and we've never met. And so I also too, just from the user point of view, is learning from other people. I can't tell you how many tricks and tips and things that I've picked up over the years, just watching my friends on their stories. So I always just try to give back and just have fun with it. And that's really about, I don't have much a way with it.
No, I think that's an interesting, perspective and a aspect of it that I don't think many people think of with marketing is everybody thinks about it as kind of a means to an end of getting more business, right? And it's just, okay, I have to do this because this is, like you said, this is a marketing tool or it's a portfolio or whatever. But, the community aspect of it, the networking is huge, and not just a networking with clients, but networking with other people in the industry, which, especially as a small business owner, it can be a very lonely, isolating career path.
Sure can.
And I think particularly in our industry, from my experience coming up in woodworking, it's like everybody kind of thinks they're protecting this special sauce when everybody's really doing everything the same way.
Right.
And so it's a very isolating industry when, I think when you're able to find that community and the people that are willing to share and willing to bounce off each other, like you said, it could be a guy in Florida. You guys don't compete with each other, but you are in the same business, and there's a lot you can learn from each other, even just having that, hey, okay, I'm not crazy. I'm not the only guy going through these pains or these struggles. Or I've seen you post things of just like, hey guys, I'm struggling with how do I do this? And here's what I've come up with. And other people will throw out there, oh, I've done that before and I'll do it this way. Or have you tried this? Or check out this hardware, or check out this vendor.
Yep.
That has a ton of value that I don't think is thought about enough.
Yeah. Like that was one of the reasons why I started using Mosaic. A bunch of my friends started using it, and I had a lot of conversations with a lot of people on social media about it. And ultimately I was like, yeah, I got to do this. I know it's going to save me time and it's going to save me money. And just so many different things. And just even while I was doing this, when I purchased this business, I ran this decision past all of my Instagram friends. Does this make sense?
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's been a cool place to be, and that's why I continue to use it. I do just stay on Instagram. I mean, I've tried TikTok and all I don't know. It's you spell all those things. You pick one, you stick with it, and it's been great to me so far.
Do you think it makes you think differently about your work in that, oh, well, if I'm going to post a picture of this, people are going to point out my mistakes, or people are going to be more critical versus just, I could do this and nobody's going to see it and nobody will ever worry about it. But now that I'm going to post it, do you feel that it makes you more critical of your work?
In that world of constant, eyes on their work. I mean, I don't think, there's definitely parts of my things that I don't share, absolutely. But at the same time, I'm trying to do production cabinetry. So should I share these types of things? I wouldn't call them cutting corners, but yeah, I wouldn't mind sharing things the way that I do things 100%. But at the same time, it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. Who cares? It's just all for fun. And ultimately, you're putting your work out on social media. You are proud of it. And you're putting it there because you want the world to see. And that's all you got to do. Just put it out there. It's not overly, people do. They make it overly complicated.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Have you encountered, the trolls or the haters that are everywhere on the internet? And
not really,
because I think that's why a lot of people are scared to post, is they're scared for the feedback, the critics, the hard, pushback. But from your perspective, I mean, I'm sure there's some, but for those that are thinking, how do I start posting? I'm anxious about it. I'm nervous about that. How often does that come up versus the positive side?
Like I said, I don't have a massive following. I have friends that I know have 200,000+ followers, and yeah, they'll post and you'll get just chatter within their comments about it, and they joke about it and whatever. But no, I don't think I have that big enough of a following to get the real haters in there. And also too, it's not like I'm posting anything controversial. I'm just posting woodworking stuff, and like I said, I guess I'm pretty genuine about it too. So, and I don't know. I don't want to be like, whatever, I know what I'm doing, but I know what I'm doing. I'm pretty good at this. So when people come at me, it's like, we really know more than what I'm providing. So I don't think anybody should be afraid of, even if you are just a DIYer starting off. Who cares? Who cares? Just get it out there. Yeah, these platforms should be used for fun. Obviously, great marketing tools, but people just overthink.
Yeah. So what's next for Kevin and for Fine Point? What's the future look like? You mentioned you want to get a CNC in the future.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're still in the early stages of moving in, getting your feet wet and acquainted with this new shop. But What does the next, year, 2 years look like? Do you have any big goals or things that you're working towards now?
Yeah, I do. I definitely have a lot of 1 year, 5 year plans. The possibilities are endless of what I can do. And not only there's like you look at it two different ways from actually a true business standpoint versus also what I want to do to this shop. So there is a litter of things that I want to do to this shop to make it more efficient. And it kind of just right into my business model, say for the next 5 years. Like you said, I know that's going to expedite processes 100%. Also, that's a replacement of a man that's going to be harder to find that is a true craftsman and knows that I can blindly trust, like I do my guy Mike. I've been chipping away at all the different things in this. I go right back to it. I sell cabinetry, so I always want to be able to have a bit play of what I either can fabricate or can sell. So a part of the space I'm going to be converting into a showroom. So ultimately, I'd like this to kind of be a little bit of a design showroom as well. And I never really had that. I had an office now, like I can show you this office. I'm basically in a closet, and this is all I have now. So right now, when I have clients come here, I'm scrambling to find doors and samples, and it's right. So yeah, long term of this is to revamp most of the space, moving a lot of equipment around to get a more of a flow within the space. The problem with this, and it's no fault of their own, but it just they were purchasing equipment over the years and they were just dropping them in the shop to where they had the space, and they had grown from 3,000 to 1,000 into another 2,000. So the shop is kind of weaves along. So the edge bander is 4,000 square feet away from the table saw. Not be that far. I should not have to get everything on a cart and roll across to the shop to bring it right back to the line boring machine and everything like that. I want to create a better system for how everything's being fabricated. And so those are like really big two things, adjusting within the shop to create a better process. And this touching on that production style cabinetry. A lot of those craftsmen know it's really hard to make a really good living when you're doing different things and not doing repetitive tasks, and you're trying to reinvent the wheel in every single project. I want to create real fine processes for every build to really expedite everything that comes to the shop. So yeah, a whole lot of that. A whole lot of.
So it sounds like, yeah, gaining efficiencies, getting organized, and maximizing the capabilities of the space you've got, the tools you've got, and adding a CNC,
and then growing.
Awesome.
I just want to continue to grow. There are going to be restrictions because this is bigger than my old shop, but it's still only 4,000 square feet, so it's not very big. So I know I could probably max out with 3 to 4 guys in this shop and to function relatively comfortably. So I do have hopes and dreams of growing into more spaces within this building, because it is a very large building and there are available spaces all the time. So I do have hopes and dreams of continually growing and scaling this business and really focusing on working on B2B relationships, so working with architects and designers and kind of catering to homeowners still, but more of the level of selling manufactured cabinetry to keep the cash flow coming.
Yeah. Awesome. So that's what the future in the near future looks like for Kevin, looks like for Fine Point Cabinetry. And what do you see in the future just for the industry as a whole? Like, has anything changed for you that you've seen coming down the pipes in the next 5 to 10 years for woodworking industry?
It's kind of a catch-22, right? So, the lack of skilled labor is real. So like I said, with my guy Mike, he's going to be parting ways with the next replacement for him is going to be really difficult. But there's also an opportunity. So the opportunity, I think, for people that either want to get into the business at this point or have been in it like me in their 30s, that, is at this point, this pivotal point of my career and my business life, that I could take it to the next level. Because there's guys like the guy that I purchased business from that are retiring around every corner. And there's lots of opportunities like this, the same one that I just did, out there all over the place. And there will continue to be over the next 10 years. So I think that's the big shift in here. And I don't know. We'll see how it all goes. We'll see how it all checks out here.
Awesome. On the flip side, what do you see staying the same and continuing, to be core to our industry in that time frame?
People that were always going to have a need for this. And until they start 3D printing cabinets, there's always going to be need for craftsmanship and skilled craftsmen. And I I go back and forth on this all the time. This career decision, and ultimately, I'm very happy and I love it. But I don't know where I was just going with it. But I think there will always be a need for craftsmen in this.
Awesome. Was there any other advice you'd share with anyone in this industry that's kind of similar path to you, or thinking about going down a path of starting a shop, acquiring a shop?
Do it. Go all in. Balls to the wall. Make it happen. Believe in yourself. It's a lot of things that a lot of problems people have with is just believing that they can do it, and you can. You just gotta hustle. You just gotta work. You gotta learn. Never stop learning. Read lots of books and listen to podcasts like this.
It's always a joy to get to talk with you. I appreciate your being so genuine and willing to share your journey and how you do that on Instagram all the time, and coming on here again and sharing with everybody. There's a huge amount of value that I know somebody listening are gaining from this. So thank you for your story and sharing it. If those who are listening want to reach out or want to find out more about you, your story, or just about the cabinets you make, how they can work with you, what's the best way they can do that?
So it's Fine_Point Cabinetry on social media, on Instagram, finepointcabinetry.com. Yeah, great way to reach out.
Awesome. Well, we'll have those linked in the show notes for you, those who are listening. And until next time, hopefully we'll have you again another year down the road and on the next level of growth in your journey.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. Do you want to stay up to date about industry insights, new content, and our community of millworkers? Go to ductworksmw.com to sign up for our newsletter. I'll see you in the next episode of Verify Infield.